everybody, this is the Wikstrand. So when you're talking about the best directors of all time, you usually have these names getting thrown around, such as, Stanley Kubrick or Steven Spielberg or Christopher Nolan or David Fincher or Billy Wilder's, or people like that. Martin Scorsese is probably also in this category. But one name that never gets mentioned is Edward Zwick. Now, Edward Zwick may not be, on the level of those people, but he's kind of a forgotten name because even, his less than spectacular movies are often very well made and has a special feel to them, and his good movies, like this one or this one or this one, boy howdy are they not awesome. Now, the movie that we're gonna take a look at today, Glory from 1989, is just another one of his really good movies, but it has one thing that is a little bit of a problem, and not a quick fix or a Zwick fix could have fixed that thing, but we're gonna find out what that is, because to be fair, this is a really good movie, which I will be mostly positive about. This is Glory. Abraham Lincoln, who has recently signed the Declaration of Emancipation, is going to go one step further in the Civil War. He's going to make it legal for black soldiers to enlist in the US Army to fight the Confederacy. And we are going to follow one of the first regiments, the 54 Massachusetts Infantry, who is going to get trained and is going to, be shipped out into war, even though this is a controversial decision. Now, the problem that this movie is settled with is the officers that we have, not necessarily Cal Lewis. He's very good and very much fits in this movie. We're talking about his companion, Matthew Broderick. Now, I have never made it a secret that I don't like Matthew Broderick that much, and he really brings this movie slightly down with him because he's just such a bland and uninteresting actor. And whenever he does not do comedy, he always looks uncomfortable, and it never feels like, the role really fits him. The silly mustache and the uniform and everything. He looks more like he's cosplaying, or, he's participating in, a reenactment of a battle or something like that. And some point could probably have been added to this movie if he was, played by somebody else. Who else? Pretty much anybody, especially if, they could have switched place with Cal Lewis, and, Lewis could have taken his place and he could have taken his place, and because we don't get enough Lewis in this movie. So these two guys are not that important or even that interesting, but maybe that's not supposed to be that. But couldn't we have gotten anybody else than fucking Matthew Broderick? Now, I'm not going to talk about him anymore because he's not that important. He's just very bland and very uninteresting. But the soldiers in the 54 Massachusetts Regiment is, more important to us, and the people who, stands out the most is, of course, Morgan Freeman, playing a classical Morgan Freeman character, and Denzel Washington sporting a shaved head, who hates everybody, and especially the barber who shaved his head. And he's looking forward to, go out into the fields and, shoot the Confederacy and stuff like that. So that's what we're going to see. They're going to train, and then they will be shipped off to the war, and let's see how they do in the battle when they're, going up against the Confederacy, and will, the morale hold, or will they be able to follow orders or stuff like that. And at the end of the line awaits their trial of fire. Fort Wagner. Will they be able to take that fort? That's what essentially this movie is about. Now, when it comes to the acting in this movie, it's very good, especially from Morgan Freeman, even though it is a standard Morgan Freeman performances, but those are always fun. But the standout performance is, of course, Denzel Washington, who is just filled with hatred and self-loathing, and he, is a provocative man who always, seeks out combat and stuff like that. It's a fucking amazing performances, and the focus should probably have been those two, and I think we get too much of Broderick and Lewin in this movie. But I don't know. It's a choice, and we have to accept it if we're going to be able to enjoy this movie, because enjoy this movie we will, because there are some moments in this movie that is absolutely fantastic. There are some battles in this one, especially the first one, that has the intensity and the scope that I really like about this movie. There is a section in the middle of this movie that I felt was a little bit frustrating. We'll get to that in a second. But it has fantastic cinematography. James Horner's score is amazing, and it is just such a fascinating story, and it moves in an absolutely amazing pace. The pace is great in this one. The movie shares a bit of a structure with the movie Full Metal Jacket. First training, then fighting. But this movie also has a third thing in the middle of the movie where they move out, but they don't get to do any fighting, and they get frustrated about it. And I also got a little bit frustrated with it because there was really nothing happening. It was just a bunch of stuff that wasn't happening in that bit, and the movie got a little stale and it got a little boring, but they made up for it big time with its fantastic ending. That ending is so fucking great. They even parodied it in South Park Biggie Longer Uncut. I love that ending so much. So if you are a person who likes this sort of, historical dramas and stuff like that, this is a movie for you if you have never seen this movie. If you are more into, the more war and battle part of the Civil War, you're going to get it in some perspectives, but if you compare this movie to a movie like Gettysburg or even Gods and Generals, it doesn't have the real scope that you want from a movie like this. I mean, the battle sequences are good, but I thought that apart from the first one, they lacked that scope and they lacked that intensity. They did kind of have that, but it wasn't to the level which I wanted this movie to have. Now, it is made up, big time by the finale and the great acting and the characters that you do care for. And if I could have asked for anything in this movie apart from, replacing Matthew Broderick with anybody working in Hollywood, including maybe a blow-up doll, maybe I could have gone for a slightly longer movie exploring more of, what's happening around them and stuff like that. I think this movie could have gone to a 140, 150 minutes. I wouldn't have minded at all. I think it could have worked. Now, the movie feels a little bit too small for its own good. I think this movie could have been a bigger, more epic movie than it was, but maybe we would have lost the more personal stories or anything like that if we did that. I don't know. I just know that this movie is a very good movie, and if you've never seen it, do see it. It has some smaller minor details that I think could have been improved to improve the movie, but for the most part, I think this is a very good movie. Glory has a very strong first act and a very good third act and a fantastic ending. The second act is probably the weakest part of the movie. I give Glory in the end 78 points. Even though this movie should have been Matthew Broderick free, I think this is probably the least bad performance he has ever done. Impressive sets, good costumes, high authenticity level and a pretty good pace. This is a very good Civil War movie. God damn it, I need to remind myself of getting fucking mittens and a beanie the next time I do one of these winter reviews, because Jesus Christ, it is fucking freezing today, minus 14 degrees. Oof. Anyway, I'll see you next time for so-and-so reviewing, well, such and such. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much.